Hey everybody, welcome to DreamTraxx Live and Uncut. We're having some technical difficulties with our guest, but he will be on soon. We're just going to talk here for a few minutes while we wait for him to work that out. We don't want to go too late. How is everybody today? It's a great day. I know in Vegas it is. The temperatures are finally cooling down, and I'm feeling pretty good. And on the screen with me is my producer, Colleen Myers. And so Colleen
Hi, everyone.
said she had some questions, and so she's going to ask them. And if you guys have some questions, you guys can ask me. And then when Mike comes on, we'll have him do the, we'll get his part of the show started.
Okay, Frank, I have a question for you. I know that Harriet Greenspan is going to be having her amazing audition workshop. Tell us a little bit about that, what people are going to learn.
Okay, so Harriet Greenspan is probably one of the biggest casting directors. I mean, she's been in Hollywood like forever. And so she's done a lot. She does a lot with Nickelodeon. She does a lot with Disney. And if you look at her IMDb, she's cast a lot of shows for this guys, but she's really a top-notch casting director. And a lot of the times, even as a coach, you try to explain to actors what casting directors want, but you know, they hear so much of it. But when a casting director comes in on a workshop and they're like, okay, this is what I'm looking for. Okay, these are the things that when you come in, I'm looking for, that gives you that opportunity to get that shot. And then she brings you up on stage and she says, okay, I'm going to work with you on this and kind of show you what it is that I do. And then if you're not doing it, I'm going to say, okay, here's what I missed and here's what I didn't see that probably would have cost you the role.
Mm-hmm. You know what I found in watching you? I've been watching you with your acting career and your acting academy for the last, oh gosh, I don't know, 8 years, 9 years. And what I found with a lot of acting students, you know, they're, very talented people. They're very passionate. They're very engaged in their art. But I feel sometimes, there's so much that that they're striving to get that art and master that art. But then we forget we can't even represent the art until we pass the audition. So sometimes I think we forget about that a little bit. And I think that's kind of that's like a job interview. That is a job interview, right? And so they're looking for certain things, and but it's important not to put that in second and make sure that that's something that they master so they can get that part, and then they can showcase all their skills that they've learned over the years.
Right. Yeah. So the casting directors are very, very important. They give you that opportunity to have that first chance or that second chance. You know, it's like when we had Paul on a couple of weeks ago, he said, hold on a second. Oh my gosh. What did he say? Okay, so anyway, sorry, I'm trying to help him work through his difficulties. But anyway, so so it's really good to know what a casting director wants, and knowing what they want really helps you go in the room and be a little bit more confident, because you lose confidence when you go to the room. You get nervous, and you start thinking that you should have done this, you should do that. You start, but when they say, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and you kind of go there and you work through it, and they're in this environment where you're not really having to impress them for the role, but they're there to teach you and help you. You get to know them. You get to see them as the person that they really are. So N30N has a question. If you want to become an actor and I have no experience, what class do you think I should take first? Well, I always think the two best classes that a person should take first are either some kind of scene breakdown, where you're learning how to break down a scene and figure out what is the writer trying to say here, or a scene study class where you're actually working through the scene and then getting up there with a partner or two partners and working through the scene. Because repetition is really important in this business. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And very few people start this business being really super good at it. So, but you want to do your scene breakdowns, your scene studies, your character developments. You want to get on-camera training if you can. You want to get some business training. Another really important thing, something we're going to be doing this October with you, Colleen, is we're going to be doing social media class. We're doing a training actors how to manage their social media, because social media plays a really big part in this business right now, especially for younger people.
And you know, I think it was Jalen Brooks that we had on. You had on a couple, I think, last month, and he was talking about, when you're talking about getting camera ready, he was talking about when he was on set, on the scene of the set of something he was doing. I can't remember which one it was. And the camera was literally, and remember what he said, when the camera was literally in his face and he kind of froze a little bit. He shared that with us on the interview. And I think it's important to have that experience, get in front of the camera. Now, let me ask you this. When you say break down the scene, let's share that real quick. What does that mean? And we got Micheal coming on. He got on. So go ahead, Frank, while I bring him up. Go ahead and talk about what that means to break down a scene or a script.
Well, it's really important, especially if you're going on audition, that you know what the director wants, what the writer wants. And the casting director is looking for what that writer wants as well. So that what we do is we teach you, say, okay, what is the writer trying to say here? What is the character who's looking for, that they're looking for in the scene or not in the scene? And how do we figure that out? How do we figure out what is the character? How do we make it interesting? You have to break down scene, because you really want to give them as close to what the writer wants as possible, but you want to make it somewhat uniquely yours. Micheal.
Hey, Frank, I'm going to go ahead and hop out and let you do your interview, and Micheal, I'll be on the backside. Thank you.
Unmute my. There we go. Are we on? Am I unmuted now?
Yeah, you're unmuted. You're
Can
on.
you hear me?
How you doing? Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Doing great.
Hey,
Yeah.
you look great. How are you doing? I haven't seen you for a long time.
Yeah, it has been a long time. I'm doing great, man.
I'm going to tell you that. I'll tell you how long it's been. I haven't seen you in such a long time that the last time I saw you was prior to me having a 35-year-old. My son is now 35 years old, but I didn't have a son in those days. So that's how long it's been since I've
Well, let's see here. If I remember correctly, the last time I saw you was standing out beside your car in the street in front of my house, and it was sometime, I want to say it was going to say spring, maybe early summer of '85.
Yes, correct.
I'm going to say
that's exactly. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. Well, you were obviously
so it's been a very long time.
It's been a long time. We were both.
Well, I mean, would you like to? Yes, we were both a lot younger. Let me turn this up so I can hear you. We were both a lot younger. I mean, see, let's see here. Last time I saw you, I was either 10 or 11 years old.
Yes.
And I'm a 47-year-old man with two 20-year-old kids and an 11-year-old daughter. So it's been a big gap of time. Let's just put it this way. You took me to see, oh gosh, Return of the Jedi.
That's correct.
You took me to see that in the theaters. And the Madison Square Mall in Madison had just opened.
Yes. So shall we tell everybody how we know each other, or shall we just go into an interview?
Yeah, go right ahead. I mean, if you want to tell, you can tell. If you want me to tell a story, I'll tell.
You tell a story. Then I can cut off your mic if I don't.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Okay. Well, I guess I should.
I can tell
Frank was my. What's that?
You want me to tell it?
You go. Well, I was going to say you were a Big Brother. There was a Big Brother Big Sister program in Huntsville, Alabama, where I'm from, and where Frank was stationed at the time. And he applied to be a Big Brother, and I was the luck of the draw and who they paired him with. And we got to do all kinds of stuff together, and we got to just kind of pal around because didn't have a dad growing up, didn't have a big brother. So just had a mother and a bunch of sisters. And I always jokingly tell people I grew up in the deep end of the estrogen pool because I grew up around nothing but women. And so I was lacking in male influence in my life. And so my mother signed me up for the Big Brother, Big Sister program. And that's how Frank and I met. And it just so happened that you and I, well, not necessarily I, but you knew people that I knew from church and from, other things. So it was, you weren't just some stranger off the street. You were, we may not have known you, but you were known in our circles.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
So it was
we had a great,
cool. Yes.
And we had a great time. We had a great time together. We saw some bass. Remember, Jose Canseco was still playing for the Huntsville Stars. Remember that? We went to see that game.
Yep.
We did a lot of great things. But the reason I'm having you on the show is not to talk about our past relationship. I'm really excited. I've been excited for a very long time that we found each other again on Facebook. Over the years, I often thought about what happened to you, and and prior to social media, you lose contact with people. You may or may never get it back. But you're an amazing human being. You always were an amazing human being. And so the reason I'm having you on the show, because a lot of people face things in their life that for some reason or other that make them want to give up on life. That make them want to feel like for them life is over. And one of the things, even when you were little, that struck me about you, I should say, is you had this go-getter attitude. I mean, you had this, know what you wanted, and you were going to go for it and stuff like that. But as you're going through your life, you had to take those jobs that pay the bills, and in the process of this, you ended up having an accident, right?
Right.
Okay.
So let's see here. To get to the point of the accident, I mean, just kind of basically part of that, what you were talking about is I was always drawn by music. Always drawn by music.
No doubt about
ever since a young kid, I was just always drawn to music. And you played a big role in that. The last time we saw each other actually played a big role in that. But that's how I ended up. I was working in the Birmingham area because, and that's a whole long story goes along with that about how I even ended up in Pell City, Alabama, to begin with, because I'm originally from Huntsville, Alabama. That's where you and I met. And not long after the last time I saw you, my mom married and we moved to a place called Huntsville, Alabama, which was a small town about 45 minutes from Huntsville. Just in one fell swoop, I went from being the center of my mother's attention and to being put on the back burner and not having any of the attention that I was used to, and which I thought I was fine with, but I guess anger and resentment built up, and I was on my way to being not a bad kid, but I was making some bad decisions, going down some bad roads, because I was getting attention from the wrong kind of people. And so as it does, it happens. And before I could do any damage to myself, my mom stepped in and put me in the Alabama Sheriff's Boys and Girls Ranches, which is a local sheriff-run place in the state of Alabama. And it's not really for cases like me. It's really more for kids from broken homes, kids that DHS or social services have to go in, and instead of putting these kids in foster homes, they put them on these girls on the girls ranches and the boys on the boys ranches.
Right.
And that was how I ended up in Pell City, where I ended up getting hurt. And but once I graduated from high school, moved back to Huntsville, and just life took over. And having a mother that was just refusing to have a rock star in the family. I was always, pushed away from my drive to be in the music industry in some way.
So you went to a metal shop, right?
Yeah, it was a machine shop that made conveyor parts for places like feed companies, paper mills. So this is big stuff. And it was but I'd moved back to Pell City at age 23 to pursue music. And that's the only reason I was down there. And had learned, I knew how to paint houses, and was doing that when I first got down there, and ran out of work. And one of the guys that I played music with was like, hey, come down to this place. They're always hiring. I'm working there, just come down there and get a job. So I went in and got a job, and, he was the guy that I was hanging out with. We were playing music constantly, and he was teaching me how to play guitar. And so it was just natural to, be around these people every day, that I was, seeing every day.
Right.
And one of the guys taught me how to weld, showed me how to weld real quick. And I picked up on that real quick and was doing that. And there was one day where I was, had worked myself out of everything to do. And so instead of just standing around, I went to my foreman and said, hey, give me something to do. And he had me cutting flat bar on what is called a machine shear. A metal shear. It is a hydraulic machine that chops sheet metal. It's basically a hydraulic guillotine.
I've seen
the best. That's the best example that I've ever been able to give somebody. It is a hydraulic guillotine. And the machine that I was working on, the shield that is supposed to be in front of the blade to where you're not even able to get a fingertip under, was hanging at the top of the machine. And the buttons that you're supposed to push on the face of the machine that are spread apart so much that you literally, it's a safety precaution because you have to push both buttons to activate the blade. And this had been rewired to be run by a foot pedal. And this was how I was introduced to this machine. And so the guy put me to work chopping flat bar on this machine. The inside of the machine's open, where the pieces that you're cutting off fall down into. Right. And so the flat bar that I was cutting was a full 32-inch, which was the full length of the gauge on this machine. And so since it's open on the inside, when I would get it all the way in up against the gauge, since this was flat bar and it was real flimsy, it kept wanting to bow up under the gauge. And the piece that I was working on, because I remember this vividly, like it happened yesterday. I had my thumb. I had my thumbs behind the bar up on the table of the machine, and to hold pressure up against the gauge. And I had to take my attention off of it for just a second to find the foot pedal, because I had taken my foot out of the foot pedal. And as soon as my foot got in the foot pedal, the bar bowed from the gauge. And when I went forward, my foot went down and kabam. And it was as quick as the blink of an eye.
I can imagine.
And in that blink of an eye, you know, several things happened in that blink of an eye. Several things happened in that split second. One, it put me in the fight of my life.
Right.
Because all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, I'm on the floor fighting for my life. And two, in that blink of an eye, regardless of whether I realized it at that moment, everything from that blink of an eye forward was different.
Yeah.
Nothing was going to be the same from that point forward.
Yeah, and this is kind of where I want to jump in.
Okay.
So obviously, without saying a whole lot, we understand that at this point you lost your hands, correct? At the wrist.
Right.
And your hands fell into the machine.
Yes.
Right. So, but
just missing the hands. I had.
And this is why I brought you on the show. Not because you lost your hands, but because after you lost your hand, you didn't lose your drive to play music. You didn't say, okay, I don't have any hands, I can't play the guitar. I don't have any hands, I can't do this. You taught yourself how to play with prosthetics, right?
Yes. Well, see, that's the thing. The first question I asked my surgeon, after the accident happened, they flew me by med flight to Birmingham. And I was in a 12-hour surgery where they reattached my hands. Lasted for 3 days. The accident happened on a Wednesday. I woke up Thursday with hands. By Saturday morning, they were taking them off. But Thursday morning when I woke up, when my surgeon walked into my hospital room, the first question I asked him was, will I play guitar again? And of course he said no. He has to tell me no because he doesn't know whether I can or not. But what he didn't realize was at that moment in my mind, when he said no, I was like, ooh, I don't like that answer because I've been waiting all my life to do this and I'm finally doing it. And you're going to take it away from me? You know, the funny thing is there is a little, there was a contraption that a guy came up with on Shark Tank. That this little contraption that you put on the neck of a guitar and you just press a button and it makes a chord for you. Oh, I actually came up with that in my hospital bed the week that I was in the hospital.
You were not giving up on this dream no matter what. Do you have a sample? So you have a sample of something that you have readily available that you can play for us? If not, it's okay. But, you know, just to hear some of your music. I know you just did something with Depeche Mode that you had just released.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, I just finished. I don't know how well it'll sound over the
it doesn't have to
over the camera.
But you know,
but let me see here.
Let's hear about this music. It is you've always been an amazing person to me. I don't know if you ever noticed the inner strength that you've always had. You know what I mean? And you and I had a lot, even when you were young. You had a lot of deep.
Yeah, but it was something that I didn't know about myself until this accident happened.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, believe it or not, all I'd ever been told was that I was never going to be a leader, that I was just a follower, that I was, you know,
never saw that in you.
That I didn't have any talent. And I mean, you know, granted, it was not my mother that was telling me that. My mother would never tell me stuff like that, but there was other family members that would tell me stuff like that. And that's what I grew up with. And so, I mean, this story is so deep, Frank. I mean, there's so many, I've had so many friends of mine that knew me before this happened that have just literally looked at me after this happened and said, you know, I don't know how you made it just straight up in the life that you've had to live, let alone throwing that on top of it.
It's amazing.
And so, I mean, let me see how well this is going to sound. I mean, this is just over studio monitors. If I would have had a better setup, I could have had something straight up
it doesn't
coming
matter.
through. Now that's all sounding strange. Well, what's going on here? All right, let me play something else. This is let me go to here. This will be I've got all kinds of stuff. But my stuff is for some reason acting funny right now. But my stuff is acting real funny right now. So,
okay.
But just go to. I've got a website. Go to just look up Hook 74, all one word, HOOK 74. Just Google that, and you'll find me anywhere that I've ever posted anything. There's video. There's
I love
music. There's original material.
Yeah, it's amazing. And there's videos of you. And we got it up there now. What your website is? You see it there on the screen. So is that correct?
Yep, I see it.
Okay.
Yep.
So he's
and
absolutely
that has all my links, my YouTube.
Absolutely amazing. Now, Micheal, what we're going to do now, the show goes about 45 minutes. So there are a lot of people who are sitting out here are going to want to ask you some questions. But before I let them ask you some questions, I just want to say, you could have let your life go in the toilet. You could have just felt bad for yourself and said, my dreams were over. But you, in an amazing spirit, human spirit, you're now, even to me, and I didn't know this till we met up again, that you had this accident. What an amazing thing. Right. That you always think that you're going to take things strong, but then you wonder, wonder how you're going to handle it. And yet, here you are, and you're doing what you love more often now than you did before the accident. And people look at you and they say, okay, my problem, I think, I have a bad day or something like this, and I just want to give up on life, and I just want to go stick my head in the sand. But you're an amazing example of no matter what happens to you in life, you don't have to give up on anything. You could stay the course. Just change the way that you're getting there, right? If sailing boat didn't work, and this didn't work, well, we're going to find a way in this way, and that's amazing. So let's go ahead, Colleen, if we could turn it over to the questions, and let some people ask you. I have a question here from Raph. He said, you're an inspiration to many. Have you ever gone to that place where your mom put you into to play for them? I guess he's talking about the ranch.
No, I haven't. Right. No, I haven't. I actually haven't been there in a long time. So many of the people that were there when I was there are not there now. And I really have no ties to anybody there. I've always want to go back there, but living in Richmond, Virginia now it's so hard to go back there. And I've only gone back to Pell City since the accident a handful of times, and since the recovery from it's been less and less. But that's a good question.
Yes, it is. What are the now? Eric wants to know, what are some of the tough moments you struggled with, and how did you get through that? Because we all face those tough moments, right? I mean, and sometimes you get beat down. And I know more than anybody, because I know you better, some of the other things you've been going through just recently, and it's been heartbreaking. But you're an amazing person, so you go ahead and answer that question.
It was more mental and emotionally tough than anything, and because from the beginning you are faced with situations that you have always been able to accomplish before, but all of a sudden now you don't have the hands that you had as a tool before, and that job is either impossible or 10 times harder. It takes you 10 times longer to do. Just like tying your shoe, something that takes you 2-3 seconds to do, with the long enough as I can do, but it's going to take me at least a minute to 2 minutes to pull that off, where somebody else is just going to take a couple of seconds.
Right.
And it's tough. It's tough. You know, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, there's times when I'm trying to work on something, or I'm trying to put something together, or I'm trying to hook something up, and I'll get frustrated and start grunting. And my wife is like, you know, what's the problem? I said, the problem is I don't have any hands. That's the problem. If I had hands, I could do this. But, you know, but the thing about it, I learned real quick that, you know, there's a list a mile long of things that I'll never be able to do again. But there's a list of things a mile long that I can still do. So you just focus on that list and not the list of the can't do's. You know, one of my you know, I've always been a glass half full type of guy, but I finally have an answer for those glass half empty people. You know, all you have to do is go get a smaller glass and pour that in. You've got a full glass.
There you go. There you go. And yeah, but you know, it does take a tough mental attitude to get through these things. I mean, everybody, I'm sure you went through periods of denial, and you know, you didn't want to accept this, and why me, and all those things. But really, in the end, where do those get it? Where do they get you? They don't. And even for us who, you know, that have the tools, or they're still there or whatever, we have other things that people don't see sometimes. We have emotional disabilities, or we have disabilities that or fear and phobias, things like that, and they can hold us down, and they can keep you from having your dreams. And obviously, with my company being called DreamTraxx, or our company, I have 2 other partners, but DreamTraxx is about getting you onto the track of your dream. And you, in the most amazing way, prove that, you know, and I've seen you play. I've seen you play with, you know, with the prosthetics you have, and the amazing sound that comes out of that is just, it's mind-boggling. I mean, you're so talented, and yet, yes, you're saying to people, look, there's 100 things you can't do, and there's 100 things you can do. Why are you focusing on that stuff that's negative that you can't do, when you can find so much joy in the things that you do? You didn't lose your love for music. You didn't lose your love to play music, but you taught yourself how to play it within the situation that you found yourself in. And that's amazing. That there's no doubt about it. And I know you look at yourself as just another guy, but for a lot of people who don't find the inner strength, or feel lost right now, they're looking at you going, wait a second, my life is nothing like that. And yet he's accomplished so much, and you have. I mean, your talent, your music is just great. Do we have any other questions, guys? I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna see if I can pick that song out on Facebook real quick.
I'm gonna put my glasses back on. Yeah, I just posted the Depeche Mode cover on YouTube because Facebook. I can play guitar, you know, like a crazy man. But the thing about it is there's still a lot of things on the guitar I can't do. Like I cannot play leads. I cannot play solos. And there's a little guitar riff, a little solo thing at the beginning of the song. And since I can't play it, I totally ripped off the original and sampled the little intro, but made it sound like an old radio, and it cuts into my version, and but Sony still doesn't like it. So but I don't plan on making any money off of it, but I would like to sell it. I would like to release it and sell it, but if I do, I'm going to put all proceeds towards disabled musicians.
that is beautiful. I have a question. Have you ever faced rejection, and how? And if you, and I'm sure you have. In fact, I know. How have you
Oh
pushed through
yes,
that mentally?
yes. Um, that's a good question because that's one of my biggest fears. Is I am very shy. Um, I know there's a lot of people that know me well that will disagree with that. But I'm very shy in certain situations, and I think that that's why I love performing because I don't
RT
have to worry
people are
about being
always
shy. I can just do
RT
right.
people
I
are
mean,
always
so I can get up there, right, and I mean, like, I mean, you put me in certain situations. I mean, because like when I was a kid, I was that little kid that when my mother introduced me to somebody, I was hiding behind her leg. So I'm still, in some ways that shy little boy. And so even though I'm a 47-year-old man, I mean, but I've learned how to get over that in my life. And but I love performing. I love to feed off the energy of a crowd. And it's just something about it that's just all right. We've got a question here.
yeah.
But no,
What
let me get back to the rejection. Yes, I have dealt with the rejection. I've actually dealt with people that think that I'm incapable of being like a normal person. But my goal is to make you like, for me, my goal is to make you forget about the fact that I don't have hands because it's not important to me. It is part of my story and it is important, but it's not important. It does not make me who I am. I make it what it is. And,
right? And that's
so
amazing. Okay, Eric wants to know what advice would you give to
what
people
advice
who
would
feel
you,
like
um, I know it sounds cliche, and it even sounds cliche when I'm told the same thing myself, that, time heals everything. But it does. And my main thing is don't give up, because don't stop doing what you want to do and what you love to do just because something or someone tells you that you're incapable of doing it, because there's always a way. I mean, if there's a will, there's a way. Um, and you can do anything that you set your mind to. It took me a year to figure out how to play guitar, but I stuck with it, and it took a lot of time figuring out ways of doing it. And I tried the wrong way a many a time, and it was something as simple as the eraser on a pencil that showed me the way.
I
So
love, I
you
love it.
just never, you never know where that inspiration is going to come from. So
I'm going to play a little bit of that song though on your YouTube channel, quick, okay? I'm going to pass
okay.
I'm going to pass up that intro and just kind of go into it.
Yeah.
But by far one of my most favorite Depeche Mode songs. Crazy thing about that, Michael, I went and saw Depeche Mode on September 30th, 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I walked out, and it was held in this what we call the T-Mobile Arena here in Las Vegas. And I saw it. It was great, great, great.
I'm
And as
familiar
I'm
with
walking, you ever had those like weird things happen to you? But anyway, I'm walking out of the arena, and I'm looking around, and I'm thinking, my gosh, this is kind of scary. I mean, if somebody really wanted to like start shooting at people, they could just like be anywhere, and we're just all bunched up like that. And the very next day, October 1st,
it.
is I don't know if you remember reading about that in the paper, but somebody at the Mandalay Bay opened fire on the next concert, which was that Route 66 concert we had here, and killed a lot of people. And then, so
Oh
that's
wow,
kind
that
of a, I
was
don't know,
okay.
thing to bring up. But it's kind of weird that way. But Depeche Mode is great, fantastic. I love your cover of it. That's just incredibly amazing. What a song, you have your own little flair to it. It has a much more raspier, much more hard rock feel to it. But it's still the same song, and it's fantastic. And
Right.
you did a beautiful job with it.
Thank you very much. I'm working on just working on new music right now, and that was something. That song's something that I've always it's always been one of my favorite Depeche Mode songs, and so I've always wanted to cover it, and so I do those little cover songs. I've actually got I did another Depeche Mode cover last year before last, Enjoy the Silence. And I'm also working on a cover of Pat Benatar's Love is a Battlefield. I've got the music all recorded for it. But I've just got to record the vocals.
And you go on live.
I've got, what's
Hey,
that?
Frank.
You go and do live shows still, right? That's amazing.
Hey, Frank.
I haven't done any live. I haven't played live in about almost a year, actually.
Okay, the producers want my attention.
But okay.
Hey, Frank, I think I can share my screen and show one of the videos with Micheal. Doing his thing. Want me to see if I can do it?
Yeah, show it to us.
Okay, let me see if I can. I think I can do this. Hold on.
By the way, Micheal, this is my sister. She's my
Hi, Micheal. It's nice to meet you.
Oh,
Your
hey.
story is very inspiring.
Nice to meet you. Nice.
With everybody. Hold on. Let me see
You
what I
guys
can
are
share.
kind of related,
Here we go. Okay. Can you see it?
Yep, go right ahead.
Can you see where it says Hook
Yep,
74?
go right ahead.
Oh, there might be.
You see he's playing the guitar there. Getting up. That's it. What an amazing, absolutely amazing. And I know everybody who watched today are just inspired by your story. Even though I haven't seen you in 35 plus years, I love you. You're always my brother. Getting hang out
Love
with
you too, man.
It was an amazing time. And we've been able to reconnect. Hopefully sometime you'll get out to Vegas and I'll get to see you in person again and hang out and do that stuff. But you were an amazing kid. I really enjoyed the time that we spent together. And I learned a lot from you then too, because you had a go-getter attitude. And anytime we talked about something, you said, "Oh, I know what I want. I know what I want." And you never let that fade. And then now I get to see you 35 years later, and I see that you did do that. You amazingly went after. But I turned you on to Striper. That had to be the most amazing thing for you.
Did. Let me tell you this story, okay? Because that last day that I saw you, you gave me a recorded tape of the Yellow and Black Attack,
that's right, I did.
First EP that Striper ever put out in 1984. And for whatever reason, and I'm not real sure if you knew that, because up till then, the heaviest thing I'd ever heard was Quiet Riot on the radio. That was the heaviest thing I'd ever heard. And then you give me this Striper tape, and I'm sitting there listening to it, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, what is this?"
Right. And there was no way
oh my gosh.
There was no way your mom could say that's not allowed in my house. That's that's one of the things about it is that
that was the dude for years. That was the only band she would let me listen to, But hey, what a band you're allowed to listen to, right?
Right. because you're like, well, my mom, she's, you know,
But that's
too Christian to let me listen to heavy metal when I'm not. Oh no, I got just the perfect thing for you, and I brought you the Striper CD. And honestly, at that time, you were kind of like, you know, that wasn't your thing. And I thought, there's no way that he's even going to want this. And then you called me up a couple of days later at the house. You're like, this is amazing. This is amazing. Where did this come from? It was great.
Yes.
And I did miss you over the years. I really did. I never stopped wondering who you were, how things were going with you. And it was amazing when I finally found you again on
Same
Facebook
here.
and to get in touch and still be a part of your life, even though it's kind of long distance. Well, anyway, we're over our time.
Right.
Michael, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It was great to talk to you again. And I'm sure everybody who was watching us and the people who will watch us after it's no longer going to be live, obviously, but it'll still be uncut. Those folks will get to see it on YouTube later. And Mike Colleen, you'll send him a link so he can have a copy of the show too if you want to post that out there.
Yeah, I'll make sure you get a copy, Michael. It's very nice meeting you. Very
One,
inspirational
thank-
story.
Very nice meeting you as well.
Thank you so much for being
Thank you.
the person you are, the amazing person you are. And thank you so much for having chosen me to be your big brother back 35 years ago.